Yeah, hello folks. This is Raghu Banda, RK Banda. I'm back after a brief break, little over 3 weeks. I know generally I was trying to do these podcasts once in 2 weeks, but sorry for the delay. I got a little more um, delayed because of other things going on. So, in this podcast, we will be focusing on this is a podcast number 7 or in the series. So, we'll focus on the scenarios that in the earlier podcast we have discussed about the different ways of doing machine learning and predictive analytics. And we did discuss about different options. We discussed about the historical aspects. We discussed about the architecture concepts, and also we discussed about all the three different ways of doing machine learning, which is where embedding into the S4HANA business processes or building as a machine learning service on the SAP cloud platform, or you can now call it as SAP business technology platform. That's a new name. Uh, and also we discussed about how you could leverage SAP Analytics Cloud. Now, in this podcast, I would like to go and discuss a bit more on the business implementation side of the things, how we exactly implemented some of these scenarios, right? Like we did discuss about the architecture concepts and the technical side of the things. Now let us go into the business side of the things. We'll pick up each in each podcast from now on. I think the next 4 to 5 podcasts, I'll be focusing on picking up one of the line of business or industry, mainly the line of business, and see what are the different scenarios that we have released so far, uh, both on the embedded side as well as the side-by-side kind of scenarios. And one other thing I really wanted to bring up is starting from Q2, most likely in April or May, once I finish this podcast series on the explaining the business side of the things with the different machine learning scenarios on the different lines of businesses. I'm going to invite some of my expert architects and experts from SAP from the different different technology teams like the ISLM, whether it is the integrated scenario lifecycle management team, the ISLM team, and the AI business services team, and also the SAP Analytics Cloud team, so that we can have some kind of a question and answer or an interactive expert hear back from the experts. So we'll also get their side of the things starting from the Q2, most likely April or May. So without any delay, let us now jump into our current session of focusing on the uh, scenarios the line on the line the different lines of businesses. So before I get in there, so the big picture is that we are building these different scenarios so that you can make your enterprises intelligent, and we build it in the form of these end-to-end scenarios. So once I complete all these podcasts across the different LOBs, then I'll go into the overview of these different intelligence scenarios and how it is connected end to end, whether it is an intelligent procure to invoice scenario or a source to contract scenario or an invoice to cash scenario, so on and so forth. But I do not want to jump the gun. So let us first start with the line of business on the finance side of the things first. So on the finance side of things, there is a huge potential, right, to automate and fine tune the processes. You can help the accounts receivable, the AR payable accountants, or the AR payable clerks, the finance controllers, and others. Will We can help all these different roles in automating and also providing these machine learning services or the machine learning options to fine tune their business processes and make it much more smoother. So we will be covering the topics around which are centered around ARAP, accounting and financial period close, financial planning and analysis, GRC, the topic which is very important, governance, risk and compliance, and also detection of abnormal liquidity, cash and liquidity related things. So let us now first get started with uh, the AR and ARAP kind of accounting kind of AR and AP kind of a scenario on the cash application side of the things. So SAP has this application, the cash application, which is predominantly built as an application which sits on top of your SAP Business Technology platform. And the machine learning service is built leveraging the legacy Leonardo platform, or now we call it as AI business services. So the AI business services framework is leveraged to build a machine learning service, and this machine learning service is consumes the functionality from the SAP S/4HANA finance business line of business, and a separate SAP cash application was built, which is running as an app on the SAP Business Technology platform. So predominantly what we focus here is that there is uh, uh, different things that are involved here. Uh, Predominantly an order to cash scenario for an AR manager or an AR clerk is one thing which is very important when we discuss about the SAP cash application and how you can smoothen this process. Uh, a quick overview of the process: you receive a remittance advice, and then the remittance advice extractor extracts the remittance advices, and then you confirm you confirm the proposal, you get a lot of bank statements or invoices, use the standard clearing rules, and you automatically clear it, and a cleared payment is done generally. If there are some standard clearing rules, uh, this is where you can use the cash application. If the payment difference is too high, then your confirmation process has to take a little different route. There will be a manual clearing. So this is where you will have to, there might be a payment difference which cannot be written off. So there might be a dispute proposal service, or there might be some disputes, or there might have to go through some cash collection recommender, and then there will be a few other things. So this is where the cash application will come in picture. Generally, if things go well, there are standard clearing rules, things go well, it is fine. But if not, then that is where your cash application will try to kind of come in the picture, and then identify what is the difference between this different uh, uh, payment scenarios here. As we know, there is a lot of manual effort which is needed from in this kind of a scenario, whether it is the accounts receivable team or the shared services team. The moment they receive an order and the payment is processed, right? So this is where you will need to uh, keep the number of days sales outstanding, the DSO, in check, so that you ensure that the cash doesn't sit too long in your customers' accounts, right? So these are the things which are very important, and hence cash application plays a very important role here. Uh, so I will let us now um, take a little pause. I think before taking a little pause, there are four or five different um scenarios, or four or five different use cases that were built uh, to help the in the SAP Cash application for the AR and AP clerk or AR and AP manager. The receivables line item matching is one use case that we will typically talk about, and then payment advice information extraction is another use case that we typically talk about. And then we have receivables line item matching with the lockbox information is another use case that we talk about. And then we have the payables line item matching is the other use case that we talk about. So these are the four or five important use cases that we are going to briefly touch base as part of this cash application. Let us now take a quick break and then continue. All right, welcome back. Let's continue. So now, in the context of the SAP cash application, let us now look into the 4 or 5 different use cases that are built here to help the AR and AP clerk. Let us start with the receivables line item matching. So here, what is happening is that the cash application automatically it matches your incoming payments with open receivables. Basically, what it's trying to do is boosting the efficiency of the traditionally very labor intensive clearing process, which is very much time consuming for the AR and AP clerk. Generally, as you know, these AR clerks, they need to do reconcile a lot of incoming bank payments with your customer invoices and make sure that proper payment is booked against these receivables, right? So they have quite a lot of different pain points here. Sometimes the payment information may be incomplete. Sometimes the mismatched payments have to be processed manually, or there might be taking some longer time to reconcile these incoming bank payments. So uh, typically this particular feature, what it does is that it the receivables line item matching feature in the cash application, it improves the DSO, the days sales outstanding. It reduces the AR management costs. It increases the invoice processing productivity and also reduce costs for the shared services. So what is actually happening here is that the machine learning service, it helps the AR clerk by automatically matching the payments with the open receivables without actually needing to manually match this data. And this is will be a huge help and really does a lot of cost savings for the companies. Uh, and the algorithms that we use here are the scikit-learn and the XGBoost algorithms, the random forest algorithms, are used to build this machine learning service, which is actually consumed by the processes from the S4 HANA, and then it goes into this cache application. The other scenario here, or the other use case here, is that receivables line item matching with payment advice information extraction. This is another use case where the AR clerk and the shared services team, they can leverage this particular machine learning service where it can drastically reduce the manual efforts by automatically extracting your payment advice information from any number of unstructured sources, right? So some of the pain points here would be for a typical AR clerk would be that some of the payment advice notices can be unclear or incorrect, and the manual extraction sometimes from these payment advice notes is very much time consuming and can be error prone. And the manual reconciliation of these payment advice notices and the customer invoices can tend to be very difficult. And often sometimes these are not entered into the system due to some technical barriers or whatever, maybe additional effort is needed. So with this machine learning service, what happens is that with this, you could improve the invoice processing efficiency and also improve the invoice receipt and the processing of the productivity. You can reduce the payment processing times, you can reduce the external workforce related invoice errors, and so on and so forth. Again, this service is again built into the SAP cache application, leveraging the TensorFlow library, and then consumed by the SAP cache application by taking the processes from S4 HANA finance line of business. The other use case that we are trying to discuss here is the receivables line item matching with logbox information. So let us briefly discuss what it is. As you know, the use of, as we might know, that the use of electronic payments is increasing a lot nowadays. Remittance information has become decoupled from the payments, and it is kind of making a challenge to identify the payer or receivable in a timely manner, right? So this, what happens here is that uh, the remittance information and the quality that is provided with the checks will vary. So there will be some issues. So in that scenario, there are some challenges, and we have a solution for that. This can be these lockbox entries can be sent to the SAP Cash application for enrichment through the machine learning program. So again, what happens here is that the machine learning model will identify the accounts and the receivables based on the information that is provided and the historical patterns. For example, these machine learning models, they can learn from the associations between these different accounts and the magnetic ink character recognition, the MICR, or the find receivables, and they can find the receivables based on the partial reference numbers. And once these enriched payment advice proposals are available, these are returned to S4HANA, and they are confirmed by the accountant and cleared using the lockbox functionality. So with this functionality, what happens? What are the business benefits, for example, for the AR/AP clerk or the accountant? Uh, it obviously increases efficiency and reduces the errors for the finance department. It enables the finance to focus on strategic tasks, and they can scale the business, and it and predominantly can scale your business. You can process your incoming payments much faster due to reduced DSO, days sales outstanding. And of course, this is tightly integrated into your S4HANA cloud and on-premise. And the fourth point is that you can learn from your accountant behavior, and it will immediately start working for you. And of course, the fifth point is that continuously you can adapt, and it doesn't require any ongoing maintenance. So these are some of the things that are addressed. Right now, let us go into the final use case in this cache application. Final, I would not say final, but one of the other bigger use case, because there is a lot more enhancements keep happening with this SAP cache application, which is one of the fast selling machine learning service from SAP. The so this use case is predominantly focused on the payables line item matching. So what exactly happens is that you have a number of the outgoing payments uh, to the customers. Your outgoing payments are payments made by the customers to their vendors, right? So these are debit items in your bank statement. So you're trying to match your payables line item and make sure that the proper matching is done. Uh, so the machine learning service, what it does here is that it will identify and propose the uh, actual matching payables, and they can automatically clear them with quite a few advantages. It learns from your accountant behavior. It continually adapts without any requiring ongoing maintenance. It basically, what it's trying to do is that you have bank statement line items of all these outgoing payables. You might have a lot of open payable line items. You have standard clearing rules. And then now you use your machine learning service. It determines the matching proposal for the items with these incomplete references, and automatically it clears the payment. So in a way, what happens is that you're boosting the efficiency of your outgoing payment, uh, the outgoing payment, payment clearing, by increasing your automatic matching rate. So you're increasing your boosting your efficiency of your outgoing payment clearing by increasing your automatic matching rates. This predominantly what it does is the three main things, right? It reduces cost for the shared services, it reduces invoice processing costs, it increases your invoice processing productivity. So these are the three important things that happens. Uh, so these are some of the things that will it helps the um, finance and the accounting department. The whole exercise, of course, is labor intensive, right, in a finance department, and it requires investigative claims to match an amount to be paid. So this whole process, it can reduce the labor required to match these payments with the payables and other things. And of course, it increases or it promotes your staff productivity. It reduces manual errors. It fastens your month-end closing with automatic or automated clearing. These are some of the things. Right now, let us take a brief pause or brief break, and then come back, and then we'll go into the use cases under the accounting and financial close. All right, let us continue now with the accounting and financial close subdomain. And here there are about 3 use cases that we can briefly discuss. One is focused on the clearing the goods receipt and invoice accounts for automatic financial reconciliation. Second is the accruals management and accruals prediction. And the third is the predictive accounting. So what is happening generally is that in your accounting and financial close, uh, we have built a few machine learning services uh, which will help your accounting and financial period end close, right? So revenue accounting and reporting generally is used to manage the revenue recognition and revenue accounting process according to your statutory regulations as your IFRS and ASC. So we do generally, your inventory accounting is used to value and monitor your material and work in progress inventories according to your legal regulations and management accounting requirements. So all this goods movement and everything is valued in your material ledgers and other things. So that's the typical process. Like now, let us see where and how you can improve the process, right, with the machine learning service. So there is this use case where we discuss about clearing the goods receipt and invoice accounting. What we are trying to do with the machine learning service, you could help improve the process of clearing your goods receipt and invoice accounts in the context of your financial account reconciliation. So what happens is that you have all your historic GRIR postings, your GRIR posted with a particular purchase order, you have your standard clearing rules, you analyze all additional uncleared postings, you clear these postings with predefined threshold, and then you finally recommend next steps for your FI postings on the purchase order item. So this is where you can, with this service, what you do, you're reducing your write-offs for better cost and inventory valuation and a better P&L result, right? So which with this, you can typically address a lot of pain points, right? Which are involved in high manual effort that is required for creating these reports, or gathering all the relevant information, investigating the root cause, and solving the issue. Typically, the customers can benefit a lot by improving the accuracy of your financial statements, reducing your write-offs, like I said, increased accuracy for your supplier liabilities, um, avoiding potential fraud and supplier errors, and also, of course, compliance with the corporate rules and all other things. So that is, of course, one of the use case. The second use case is focused on your accruals management or accruals prediction. Typically, what happens is that the accruals prediction functionality, it estimates and predicts accruals in order to support your cash flow planning. You can basically adjust the linear value, which is proposed by the system, on your knowledge of the purchase order or feedback from the business owners and the reported values that you have the date, right? So generally what happens is that the typical pain points that you can get here, it's very hard to estimate accruals as these projects can run very asynchronously. They can run very asynchronously, which means they rarely run synchronously. So the systems are proposing some linear values. Adjustments are always based on accountants' knowledge. So which are these things which are, there's a lot of manual things happening, right? So what you could do, you could improve your cash flow planning by faster and more accurate calculation of your accruals and deferrals, because you have your historical purchase order data, your historical accruals data, your accruals information. You can group all these certain purchase orders and you can automatically accrue the purchase orders depending on your confidence levels. So this accrual prediction will be very important. Typically, the value proposition here is that you improve the cash flow planning via faster and more, I would say, accurate calculation of your accruals and deferrals. And here again, we are for using a machine learning service, which was built on the SAP Business Technology Platform, leveraging the AI Business Services framework, using the Skikit library, and the algorithms such as a random forest and XGBoost are used. Right. So this is the other use case which we wanted to briefly discuss. And then finally, the other use case that I wanted to discuss in this subdomain is the predictive accounting. This is an interesting topic, right? You have in your traditional accounting approach, the account team has to perform a series of closing activities before the other stakeholders could view how the company was performing. Businesses definitely generally will not have the data readily available for making these decisions on the fly. So this is where, with these fast changing businesses and industry processes, this concept of predictive accounting uh, came into the existing came into the understanding of the people, so that you could do predictive accounting data for future periods as well in a particular single source, right? So what you can do is that you can automatically extend the reach of your accounting by consuming the machine learning service. So there are two steps involved here. One, your incoming sales orders have to translate into a predicted revenue, and the commitments that translate into expected expenditures. So basically, your incoming sales orders have to be translated finally into a predicted revenue, and also the commitments that translate into your expected expenditures. So these are the two things you will have to make sure that you address, so that your you can plan better for the future. So with this, the benefits would be that you can accurately forecast your upcoming revenue based on your sales orders. You can provide availability of the reports for working capital. You can identify possible exceptions and opportunities and have an overview of your future cash flow. So this is the other scenario which is very important, and which we have been, which is available as a machine learning service again on the SAP Business Technology Platform, which is embedded into the this is actually embedded into your S/4HANA business process. Let us now take a quick break and then come back. All right, welcome back. Let's now get into the subdomain of financial planning and analysis. So in this subdomain, we'll focus on the financial planning and analysis and the machine learning services that are built here. Predominantly, there are about 3 to 4 use cases. We'll predominantly focus on 2 use cases. One of them is the SAP Financial Statement Insights, which is kind of not being used much, and there's no additional development. So, but the other 2 use cases, the SAP Real Spend and invoice invoice payment forecasting, are being used pretty much. So we'll briefly discuss about this SAP Financial Statement Insights, which is a machine learning service that is built to detect the smart alerts for profit and loss, leveraging your SAP Financial Statement Insights. So here you have your historical revenue and cost data, your profit and loss statements, and you automatically explore the multi-dimensional space of available filter combinations, and you get in-app notifications. So typically what you're trying to do is you're automatically detecting any unusual business situations in your revenue and expense accounts, and reduce the time spent on investigations, and you can this will dynamically help steer your business in the right way, in the right direction. Uh, so this is one use case that was built, not much updates on this. There is no additional uh, updates on this, but if there is any feedback on this you want, then you can always reach out to us and we'll provide additional updates as well. uh, Now the other use case which is very important is the SAP real spend. Here basically what is happening is that obviously any customer, they want more real-time transparency, right, for their real-time decision making. So this can act as a single source of truth for your reliability or an ability to do these things. So typically in this use case, what we are trying to do is that you're trying to detect unusual expenses. There are your actual and committed spend, your cost object and cost account. But there are, you might run up into typical pain points from users are that you could explore the different filter combinations and find attributes where you show that there is a lot of time being spent on investigations and automatically detecting unusual business situations, right? So this is where you might want to get some kind of a help, and with that, with the SAP real spend, the great business value that offers is that it can reduce your cost overruns, and your effort and cost of maintaining situational awareness are also reduced. So typically what we are doing here is that there are two things, right? You're automatically detecting any unusual expense bookings, and then you're also reducing the time spent on investigations and making sure that you drive in the right direction. So the typical advantages of this use case are that you can decrease your time for analysis, you can increase your scope of further analysis, you can improve your budget usage, you can improve your cost accuracy. So in this way, what happens is that the users will have the customers will have more real-time transparency, and you can, as a manager, you can also stay top on your budget. Finally, let us briefly look into this invoice payment forecasting in the accounts receivable department, right? Again, AR is typically the largest asset for any organization. And then you will want to identify your invoice payment forecasting. And here, what we are trying to do is that we are trying to identify with the machine learning algorithms that are built. The idea is to analyze the current state of your accounts receivable with a view of currently overdue invoices and those that will be due in the future. So based on that, you build a machine learning model and you can analyze that. This is a use case which was built in when the earlier use case, SAP Real Spend, is built as a uh, machine learning service on the SAP Business Technology platform, whereas this uh, invoice payment forecasting and the accounts receivable, it's more built like a template or a user story as a dashboard in the SAP Analytics Cloud using some of the functionality here. So you typically take the custom CDS views or the CDS views that are available in the S4 business process, create a custom CDS view and pull out the data here, and then we have built it here. So let us now again take a short break before we. All right, welcome back. Let us now focus on the subdomain governance, risk, and compliance. This is a very important topic, and there are a couple of use cases that I would like to discuss here: the business integrity screening and the tax compliance related use case. So, as you know, some of the key features here in a governance, risk, and compliance related scenario or business process is that you have to identify risks and improve your risk management activities. You have to manage your risk efficiently, always with little or no complexity. You have to effectively prevent fraud in business processes and manage your audits better. You have to improve your organization's performance by protecting their core values, right? These are the four important things. With the business integrity screening, we have addressed one of the key important things here, right? We are the machine learning service that is built. It identifies and any fraud and prevents fraud in happening. So what happens is that you can reduce the number of false positives, you can reduce the risk of fraud, you can respond faster to any threats. This is again, you take all your historical use cases, you have your predictive detection methods, all this is taken into account. uh, Typically what happens is that for the fraud investigators and screening specialists, they have very humongous workload of that they have to identify, right? Like so much of suspicious or anomalous use cases that come. They cannot go into each and everything. They cannot kind of identify every case. They cannot obviously give the same amount of priority for every case. So they will have to prioritize this. So instead of working on random queue of cases, these predictive detection methods, they will rank each of these new case according to the probability of the impact for the company's business. And then the investigators can work on this. Uh, this will greatly help the investigators and the fraud screening specialists so that you can solve, you can focus more on the fraudulent cases and then the cases that need more help. So to summarize, I think, or identifies that you can automatically detect and rank the attributes within any classified data that can positively correlate with your cases, anomalous cases. You can incorporate them in your detection methods. You can seamlessly integrate into the algorithms. You can so identify so three three to four main important things, right? You can detect new suspicious patterns, you can reduce your number of false positives, and you can seamlessly integrate into your machine learning algorithms. This is how this SAP business integrity screening framework, or the business or the SAP business integrity screening use case has been built. The next use case is around the tax compliance. So compliance issue processing is a big thing, right? Like you have historical accounting documents, you have company's memory of its tax managers' past decisions, and then you have to classify continuously. You have to classify your compliance issues. You have to choose the level of automation based on your compliance check. You have to trigger automated correction measures, and then you have to keep learning. So what happens is that the automated compliance issue processing, it limits the human interaction to some of these exceptional cases. Uh, Predominantly, it improves the gains would be that it improves compliance, it reduces compliance costs, it increases your efficiency by smart compliance issue processing, automation things that you're doing, and you can reduce audit preparation time from days to hours. So these are some of the important things. And these two use cases, again, these are built as embedded machine learning scenarios, which are built into the SAP S4HANA business processes. So typically, what happens is that when the SAP tax compliance machine learning service, it allows your tax managers to transparently apply SAP HANA's automated classification algorithms. It can You can benefit from company's memory of its tax managers' past decisions. You can automate your compliance issue processing and limit the human interaction. You can choose a level of automation on a compliance check basis. So these are the main four important things that are done here. Let us quickly take a break and then come back to the last subdomain around cash and liquidity. All right. Welcome back. Before we wrap up this podcast 7, uh, let us now go into the details about this subdomain around cash and liquidity management in the finance line of business. One of the use cases that, or the use case that we would like to discuss here is more on the detection of abnormal liquidity items around this cash and liquidity management. Generally, what happens is that we notice that customers have difficulty maintaining any meaningful liquidity items considering the complexity of their business processes. So it is possible to define improper liquidity items when assigning them manually, right? So this is where the liquidity items are a critical information for business users to understand the use and the source of their cash flows. The business value for the customer can be measured in different ways. Liquidity items cannot be derived based on these configured rules because the business processes aren't covered, or because there might be new business processes that exist in which the liquidity item itself is wrong, or it might be improperly defined. And generally what happens is that the cash managers and specialists, they want to analyze the business reason for the cash flow and detect the abnormal liquidity items, eventually reducing the errors. So this is where it would help the cash managers and the specialists. So in this context, the machine learning service around the detection of these abnormal liquidity items could discover potential errors and reduce the wrong liquidity items, or it can more accurately provide this uh, liquidity related items, and it can provide more accurate analysis. So the overall idea is that the machine learning service here would provide a liquidity forecast as a service to increase the accuracy. The idea is to provide or forecast, the idea is to mainly forecast more accurately the future cash flow with the machine learning capabilities and the statistical models that are available, which can show some insights that are gathered by these algorithms. And it can help in your overall analysis and the analytics and the reporting. Of course, this is done using the categorization and classification patterns, and it uses typically in this context it uses the random forest algorithms of APL, and it is and these are embedded into the SAP S4 HANA business processes within leveraging the ISLM framework. The typical business benefits would include the following, right? Like you'll have the detection of fraud in very early stages. You could also identification of these correlations in the cash flow data. And finally, you could understand the main influencers in the timing of your cash flow and how they impact the difference between your actual data and the planned date. So you have an actual date and the planned date. This is where how you could understand the difference between what is your actual date and what is your planned date, so that you're mainly influencing your timing of the cash flow. So with this, we complete the use cases or the scenarios in the finance line of business. In the next few weeks, the plan is that I'll go into the other lines of businesses. The plan is mainly the next few weeks, every week I would pick up one of these line of business, starting with procurement, sales, produce, and maybe a few other industries, and then wrap up this series. More details about this, if you would like to understand, obviously can be found in the book that I have co-authored along with my colleague, Mr. Sia Sarfaraz. And this book, as I've explained earlier, is available, and we go into much more details about these business implementations. Of course, like I've mentioned earlier, I have this blog series that I'm maintaining, and this podcast series will also be attached to that. Any questions that you might have, you could always respond over there or put feedback over there. Eventually, in the coming sessions, I will also provide my Twitter handle and the LinkedIn updates so that you could also provide feedback over there. So, with this, I would wrap this session, the podcast 7, and then I would wish you all a very good morning or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are listening in from. Have a wonderful day and stay safe. Happy predicting the future with SAP technologies and machine learning. We'll connect back again within a week, and we will go into the other use cases around procurement line of business. Thank you and bye bye.